Oh, hello, hi. Hang on, my stream deck is very slow. Meow. It took me like 15 seconds of clicking the thing to actually do what I wanted to do. Who's here? Who said what? Fudge is here. Hello, Fudge. Ruby, what does BBLD stand for? BBLs, Big Booty Latina, I guess. Ah, so all of my programs are just lagging right now. Oh god, I don't know why. A smooch from Tano. Hi Tano. Hello, hello. Hello. Meow. Hello. My computer seems to be lagging today. I don't know why. Gotta spend it all on bases. Hi guys, hello. Big booby Latina dragon. Got it. Hello. It is still Golden Week. Bread, resub, thank you. Oh my god, 25 months. You've officially hit the 2-year mark. If you're wondering, wait, isn't 24 months 2 years? Well, think about it this way, right? If you resub for your 24th month, that means your 24th month is just beginning. But if you resub for 25, that means your 24 months have ended, so now you're officially at 2 years. Hi. That's a really nice emote, actually. Awooga. Hi. Anyway, yes, hi, it's me, Big Boobies. Big Boobies. I'll be honest, I don't know how much I like the yellow top, just because you can still see the little red tint underneath, because, you know, I mentioned yesterday, that's just how it works. Hello? Hello? I'm still here. Hello? Hello? Oh, I'm back. I like how it sounded like I was actually being drowned out. Hi. I don't know. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Thought that was the silent one. That is not the silent one. You want the where are you going for it? The more expensive one. Now that we have another amazing year coming. Yeah. You think I'm gonna be streaming for another year? Well, you'd be right. I don't know, honestly. Hopefully. I'll be honest, I have no plans. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing these days. Hello, hello. Please say yes. Like I'm gonna do my best. Like I'm not gonna say I won't. You know, I'm having fun. What I will say is, like, you know, most people say I stream as a hobby. I stream to make a career out of it. You know, I've probably spent in my 3 years of doing this so far, a little more than 3 years, almost 4 actually, now that I think about it, huh? Probably about 3.5, right? Yeah, because it was like 2 years of OG model, 1 year of this. What I was gonna say was I've spent close to 5 digits on VTubing, which is obviously nothing compared to what some people spend, right? Some people spend more, some people spend less. And I'm not even talking about like the big VTubers that can afford to do this kind of shit, because a lot of it they could potentially write it off for taxes and shit, because this is their business. Yeah, no, I've spent a lot of money on this. I'm not saying I'm gonna do it because I've spent a lot of money on it, but it's just like I'm doing this for the love of the game. I'm spending money that I'm probably never gonna get back, realistically. Because let's say, let me give you an example, right? My 2.0 model. Not including new stuff, just my 2.0 model. The entire setup, everything, emotes, model animations, things like that. Probably above the 3K mark for everything for my debut last year. And like, I'm realistically never getting that back. So you just assume, oh, I get something new for stream, a new emote because we hit a new check mark, a new outfit because I wanna, you know, I wanna get some cool cute sexy new outfits. I'm I'm at the size where I'm doing this shit for fun. I'm not doing this shit because I expect the money to get me back. Yeah, it's just another hobby. Exactly. It's like people who have like model kits or, you know, collect cards, not investors, quote unquote, right? But people who like actually collect sports or trading cards, any kind. For the most part, you just do it because you love it, just because it's fun, or just gives you something to work towards. And that's kind of how I do my life. If this ever blows up, cool, okay, maybe I'll make a job out of it. But I feel like treating it kind of just like half of a job, if that makes sense. Like, I treat it seriously, right? As in, I have a schedule, I have a model, I have like a whole persona that I play, right? Like I'm not just in a model and I just stare at the screen and play a video game, right? Because there were definitely some people that just do that, and no shame to them, but like, you know, I try to build a community, I try to talk to people, I try to do what I can, I try to grow. It just depends on if it actually happens. But like, I have some friends that like really want to make it a job eventually, and like they stress so much over like, oh, this stream felt bad because nobody talked, this game did terrible because nobody showed up, this YouTube video or short that I posted did terribly, and I'm like, nah, just chill, that's not me. If I post like a short or a YouTube video, if people watch it, cool, it's there. If people don't, all right. I know I'm just another literal grain of sand on the ocean that is, on the beach of the ocean that is the internet. And if people notice that I'm shinier than other sand, cool. If people just step on me like they would anybody else they go through, all right. It be what it be. Sure, it'll feel bad, but like, it be what it be. Things may come up, workshop change, anything else. Yeah. Like at my job, like they started talking to me more seriously about like moving up because it's something that I'd done before. Like, what am I gonna say? Like, I originally, at this job that I am, I was the person in charge. I left because I tried to become a computer programmer, like a successful one, with like a job in like a game company or a just some software business. Didn't happen because the area that I live in, which I'm not gonna dox myself, just has nothing for that. Like, I would have to move anywhere from 6 to 16 miles away from where I currently live. The 6 hours is by car, the 16 hours is by plane. And it's just, you know, that's just not something I want to do. I want to stay comfortable. I don't want to upend my entire life for things like that, you know. Again, it's a job the wrong way to do it. Only people break over 10, even less. Yeah, it's not even that. Like, if you want to break out of the literal bottom, like 20% of people that do it, which is where most people are, right? Because there's the top 1%, then like anybody over like 100, maybe 75 viewers on whatever platform is in the top like 50%. Anybody below that is like 30%. Anybody below, you know, 10 viewers is the majority of people. Like, if you want to grow, you either spend a lot of time, or you spend a lot of money, or you do both. And I'm not about to do all that. Like, I already barely sleep. I already have a full-time job. Like, I still air 6 times an hour. So yeah, I guess they're both by car now that I think about it. The US isn't that open. But essentially, right, if you want to do computer programming, I've learned, in the US at least, you want to be in Silicon Valley, in LA, or surprisingly, Ohio in the US. Those 3 areas. I think Texas is growing as well, but that's just because it's Texas, and Texas has like different tax laws that people are trying to take advantage of, but like for the most part you have to move to those areas, and I don't really want to. Those areas are expensive. I think Ohio might not be, but those areas are expensive. I don't want to do that. I already live in California. I don't want to lose the well-paying job I have now to go to an area that's as expensive as I'm paying now without a good paying job, like guaranteed, that is. Anyway, but yeah, I'm not willing to spend money to promote myself. Like, I know somebody who did, and like the 2 or 3 videos that they promoted for like $100 or something did like dummy numbers, dummy as in like comparatively, but then everything around it is like, oh, 10 views, 15 views, 3,000 views, 3,000 views, 4,000 views, 10 views. Like, that doesn't bring people to you. Like, people don't really watch you if they get promoted you for the most part, unless you're actually super special. So like, I'm not about to spend money on promotion that gives me like a small blip of notoriety for like 24 hours and then I disappear again. Nah. Also, this song is fucking great. I love Rooftop Run so fucking much. I never played Sonic Unleashed, surprisingly. I only ever played Sonic Generations sections of Sonic Unleashed. Anyway, long story short, I have no plans for the future besides doing what I currently do. I do plan to stream for as long as I can, as long as I want, unless things change. But besides that, yeah, it could be 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 6 years, 10 years. I could be an old ass fucking person, like 50 years old, still be streaming, if it still exists at that point. I don't know. To do Sonic Unleashed for a stream? This one I haven't tried. I would need to figure out how to play it. I know there's like a PC. Is it a decompilation people did, or is it like a port? I need to look up the Sonic Unleashed. I think it is decomp, which is the difference between decomp and a port. Because a port literally is like an emulator, but a decomp is taking the source code and making it work for Windows or whatever operating system. So it's a little bit better than an emulator, because your PC doesn't have to emulate like the software speed that, or hardware speed that the console was using. So I'll have to look. I can do that. I can look it up. We'll see. I could do like a Sonic-thon and just play every single Sonic game, because I've played most Sonic games. Like, I've played 1, 2, 3 and Knuckles. I've not played CD. I played 3D Blast, but I never really finished it because that game was kind of weird. I played Adventure 2. Never played Heroes, surprisingly. What's after Heroes? Was Unleashed after Heroes? I guess 06 would be after Heroes, right? Never really played 06, so like I have like a gap of like 5 years of Sonic games that I never played, which is 06, Unleashed, and all of the Fairy Tail series, which is Secret Rings and Black Knight. So those 4 games I actually never touched, because for some reason I don't know, those games just didn't vibe with me, so I never played them. But I played pretty much everything since then, so like Generations, Frontiers, Mania. Never played Sonic 4. I heard that one game was not really that good though. What else? I did play Shadow. Sonic and Shadow Generations. What am I missing? There's a game in there that I'm missing. I don't know. Anyway, long story short, I've played most Sonic games. They're just like a 5-year gap that I didn't, so maybe I can play all of them in a row. I don't know. We'll see. Ow. I have to figure out what I'm playing after Mario Galaxy. I don't think I want to do Mario Galaxy 2 right away. But we'll see. We'll figure it out. Maybe I'll do a game that you guys have never seen that I've played before. Hell, you guys might have never might never have even heard of it. It's still a newer game, but maybe I'll play that. Maybe I'll do trying to think, what's the game called? Stellar Blade? Maybe I'll do that because I bought that on sale a while ago. Never played it. Anyway, we should get to play in Mario Galaxy because we still gotta finish Mario Galaxy. Fuck that game. The game pissed me off. Purple coins pissed me the fuck off. Anyway, how was everybody's Friday going? I realized something just thinking about like things to say, not now but like in general. It's really funny. I have thought of a new classification for myself, as in like if I ever tell people like about myself on like a raid or something, I remember saying Double D Dragon, and I'm like, I know what the D stands for now. The D stands for dairy. Yeah, classification, just like, I don't know. Where are we going? The engine room. Yeah, just like I don't know. You think of your character and stuff, like specifics. I don't know how to explain it. Like shit. Lore, I guess. I don't know. Also, how's the audio? Let me know if it's good. Sounds like the game might be a little quiet, but let me know. Dairy Dragon, yeah, exactly. Listen, we always talk about milkers on this stream, so, you know, I feel like it's appropriate. Hi, Varia, what's up? How's it going? Gold Leaf Galaxy, purple. Oh god, I forgot they're both purple coins. I hate purple coins. There's 20 of them too. That pissed me off. Is there like a final challenge in this game, or is it just purple coins? Is there like the perfect run like Mario Galaxy 2 has? Honestly, a Calgary VTuber would look cute like house splotches at a giant TikTok. Yeah, I think that'd be cool. This new color trying. Technically, if you're not very keen on oh shit, it's timed. On other cultures, it is Golden Week in Japan, and which is just a string of I think 4 holidays, maybe 5, which is just like a big. It's kind of like, if you want to think about it, it's kind of like a spring break situation where like this just everybody has plans, makes plans and stuff. And I decided, you know what, I'm gonna be gold for this week. I think it might even end up being Gold Wednesday because I believe the final day of Golden Week is. Oh no, it's Monday. Never mind. That won't be. Switch. Honestly, Ruby, you might be onto something. Like maybe I make that as like a second lore piece for myself. But how have you been? It's been a while. I remember you were big in here when I was playing Metroid, and I kind of understand by the name. But it's good to see you dropping by for just any reason. Also, there's a really nice remix of Dusty Garden. Big horns like bulls. Yeah, cowbell, yeah, all of that. Oh my god, bounce between strokes of HD. Oh, that's fine. I understand. I'm sort of the same way, if that makes sense. Like I don't have ADHD where like I need to keep bouncing between new streamers. Just that they know change your model. I don't know. I'm not talking about changing my model design, right, Ruby? I'm literally saying, like, you know how a lot of people have different models or different outfits for like different lore that they figure out. Like, oh, I have a mafia outfit. I have you know, so the best way I can think of is Cottontail, who has her, when she moved from 3D to 2D, she created a model that's what's it called? Like it's just it's really pretty first of all. But then she has like she had a oh shit. Saved. She had plans in the background to make like an outfit technically be all 7 sins. So like I think she has right now lust, wrath, and I think it's just those 2 so far. So like I was thinking something like that is what I meant. So you're into Undertale now? Nice. Does that include Deltarune or just Undertale? I like how that bee is like, did you get 90 purple coins? Like I was thinking like that, like just like the lore could literally just be, oh, I was hit by a stray like mutative arrow during battle or something, and I'm now half cow or some shit, you know? Something probably a little bit deeper than that, or even less deep than that. Fuck! You slid. I gotta do it again. I love this. The good thing is this one's timed. Deltarune 2 more so. Oh, did you beat the game? What's got you like so hooked? Besides obviously the story, which is great. I fucking love Undertale's story. I recently saw a tweet that was insulting people for really liking Undertale's story and being like you know, saying Toby Fox is a great writer, and they're like, oh bro, Toby Fox's story is like the most common story out there, and people are like, so like it's a good story. Just because it's a common theme doesn't mean it's a bad story. Yeah, like he is a great writer, like it's a common story, sure, but like if it was just a very basic story with tropes that everybody's seen before, it would not have picked up like it did. Like the theme is very simple. Humans versus monsters, right? Humanizing the monsters. Wow, like that's so different. It's really not, right? But it's the way it was written that captures people's attention. Lore's up to the imagine. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like, who the fuck knows? I don't know. The lore for a new outfit could just be, oh, like if it's not just an outfit, it could just be, oh, I was tricked into drinking this potion and it turned me into this. Like, I don't fucking know. Favorite character's nasty. Look, I could see that. I'm just saying, like, there could be a lore reason why I change up, quote unquote, my design for a short time for like a really good like theme idea, I guess. Brother, depressed to express, just wants to make music. Yeah. Mario, can you do what I want you to do? I think the best is just do that. He's adorable. He is. Mario, don't. I will read that in a second. I do not want to fall off this fucking cliff. Can I spin collect them? I can't, only in the water. Some of my common stories are the best ones. Folklore is a lot of the same dragons. CB's favorite comment about these cultures for a reason, just because folks history to just folklore doesn't make any less. Exactly, yeah. Like it's as long as the story's not literally the exact same. Like if you take Romeo and Juliet and you keep the exact same story but just change the names, that's not going to be interesting. But if you take the themes of Romeo and Juliet, right? Like there's a lot of movies out there that are like, oh, star-crossed lovers, all this stuff, you know, fated to be together, but you know, others' actions have different ideas. Like you can do that, and it's still interesting. Speaking of lore, do you guys want to know my original lore that I had plans for? Before I honestly said, fuck it, I'm just gonna be myself. Lore, yes, lore. Because I don't really have lore, I'm not gonna lie. I would like to learn scrap to Rin lore. I mean, like... Oh, Luigi's purple. Oh, I know what this is. It's the backside. L for Luigi. Give me the star bits. Thank you. There's a timer. Hold on. 100 of the 150. Thank you for telling me. I believe I also want to keep myself a path to go get back with. My original lore for my VTuber, I died. My VTuber character was, I was a dragon, nondescript. I didn't really care what type I was. I'm just purple. Like, my initial thought was, like, if you're a Dragon Ball head, you might recognize this reference. Shadow Dragon. It wasn't necessarily a Dragon Ball reference, it just happened. I like, kind of, yeah. But the idea was I'm just a dragon and I live up in the mountains and I'm very much curious on human nature, and I just decided to go down once and I learned about streaming. So I put myself out there just to get people's eyes on me, to learn more about not humanity, because I think that's a cliche. It's just to say hi and meet people. Yeah, shadow fits exactly. Like that was the initial idea, was to be shadowy. Because if you guys don't know, the term Rin means cool. It could mean cloudy, like the like just like actually cloudy, mysterious. So like it was gonna be a double meaning for my name. And then Kumori is just ads. Like a dragon, kind of. This part is hard, by the way. And then Komori means, I believe it means... No, Komori's cloudy, sorry. Rin is cool, like mysterious, like apathetic almost in a sense. So, like if you've noticed, a lot of times the characters named Rin, they're very much like the cool reserved type, because that's just what the name means. Not always, but a lot of times. And Komori is what means cloudy. And it means the kind of cloudy specifically that is the cloudy after the rain has ended. So like the very pretty... I pressed the wrong button. I pressed Y instead of A. I didn't long jump. So like my theme was like I am the mysterious one up above that you kind of want to get to know more about. I touched that thing already, really? Fuck that. So that was my original lore, but then I was like, you know what, that's too much fucking work. I'm gonna keep the name and I'm not gonna worry about it. Like, shoutouts to people who actually keep up the whole persona shtick, but I don't give a flying fuck, man. I'm just me. My name still kind of fits because I'm very quiet, very reserved. I hate that I don't know how to rotate the camera. Opinions on Temmie? Temmie's cute. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not like a massive Undertale fan. I do love Undertale, but like I'm not one of those like die-hard fans that like watches every stream of somebody playing it for the first time. But I do love Undertale. Stay alive. Stay alive, Mario. Okay. 11 more. Keep pressing the wrong turn. Don't die, Mario. It is your hyperfixation. That's fine. I'm not saying it's bad. You could have whatever hyperfixation you want. If you want any of my hyperfixations, it's usually just like Zelda or Pokemon. That's me. I gotta go back, but I destroyed almost all of the paths because I do remember I needed the path to go back. Oh, this is gonna be rough, this specific jump. I'm kidding. I forgot Mario's got fucking hops in this game. Eh. Is that everything? That's number 120. Is that everything? Playing Neverness. Yeah, I've seen people play it. I saw Shy Lily play it on beta before it actually came out. To me, it just looks like another which one am I thinking of? Not ZZZ, not kind of Honkai-ish, but I'd say more. I think it looks more Genshin-ish in the sense. But I forget what the combat is. Actually, the combat might be like a arena instead of like open world. Anyway, it just looks like one of those games. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just I have no interest because I don't have the time to play games like that. Yu-Gi-Oh archetype, maybe. Ooh, you're making Yu-Gi-Oh cards based on this. That's cool. All right. You know, enough Star Pride goes to another world. But before that, we must help her special. I have to beat Bowser again? I guess I have to beat Bowser again. Okay, we'll go beat Bowser again. Antis, it's fun to survive with it. See the game serious the mission. I've seen. I saw Shiloh played in the beta and it looked pretty good. The beta was like 2 or 3 months ago, I think. Mint is ADHD Angel. Yeah, I mean, again, looks cool. It's not my thing because it's just those kind of games I don't really have the time for. Done all the enemies for real. That's cool. Nice.
Go, Mario.
Go, Mario. I don't remember the names of any of the characters that Shiloh had in the beta. I'm assuming Mint was one of them. Ah. We have to beat Bowser again, by the way. I wish we didn't have to, but I guess we do. You know, I wish I liked anything the way some Yu-Gi-Oh players like Yu-Gi-Oh. Because, like, God, man, to have that kind of passion, it's kind of fucking crazy. Like, these days, I just enjoy things. I don't really have any hyperfixations anymore. Like, you could kind of say Pokopia was a hyperfixation of mine, but like, I never played it in like an unhealthy way, if that makes sense. Hi Marissa, welcome in. Careful. Oh, they fall. Go. like, you know, everybody's had their Fortnite phase. A lot of people still have their Roblox phase. Or like, yeah, like just, you know, they have these phases where they just do something for Marvel Rivals was a phase for a lot of people. Some people still play it, but maybe not as religiously. Screw Roblox, yeah. I think if I remember, I recently saw in the news that Roblox had to pay like, is it a $2 million or $21 million to I think users in Minnesota, I think it was, in the US, something like that. Because of their inability to protect minors in that game. I had to scratch my nose, that's why I took the damage. It's okay. As long as I stay alive, we're good. I can always just grab a coin later. Starbits. Storbits. I love this part of the stage. It's really cool. The abilities, they don't have the intelligence. It's not they don't have the intelligence, they just don't care. If they're making money, they could give a flying fuck who they endanger. And that's most businesses these days. Like, if they can get away with doing the bare minimum, fuck it, they'll do it. Like, for lack of a better way of saying it, a lot of people think the same way about the Pokemon company. I died. They think like, oh, the games are so bad, but people keep buying them like the sheep that they are. That's their words, not mine. So then they're like, oh, why should they ever improve the quality of their games if they know people are just gonna buy their shit regardless? It's like, I mean, yeah, it's true, but at the same time, they see the reviews. I'm part of the problem. I am too. Like, I'll criticize the games. I'll still buy them because, like, I recently saw, again, I keep talking about Twitter because I'm not. That's a nice double kill from them. I'm not like terminally online like some people are on Twitter, but I do browse Twitter a lot sometimes because sometimes they just have like really good tweets, and I don't just mean the ones that like show massive titties. Like, maybe you guys have seen that online. There's apparently a streaming group that just shows their fucking tits for the first 10 seconds of the stream. Anyway, where was I going with this? I recently saw a tweet that said, talking about the Pokemon problem. It was, they were posting images, I think it was of Fakemon, of like different creature catching games, motherfucker, like Temtem or Power World. Is there a screen tear on my screen, or is that just what the fucking section looks like? I think that's just what the section looks like. I'll wait till I get out of this to take a look. But anyway, they were posting pictures of that, and they're like, this is why I can never get into like people that try to be the next Pokemon, is their designs are never, literally never, as good as Pokemon designs, no matter how much people like to glaze other creature catchers for their designs. Like, there's just something that Pokemon does that other companies or game developers have never figured out, and it's like, that's actually kind of true. Like, if you think about it, like, yes, there's some bad Pokemon designs that you probably dislike. Like, for me, Bruxish is one that comes to mind as like a not great design, but that's 1 out of 1,000, by the way. But like, every single Pokemon is still miles more recognizable than anything in like Pal World or Temtem or anything like that. And to the point where if you see a creature from another creature catcher game, like Temtem, like Pal World, you could literally see what exact Pokemon they were inspired from. Not what design they were inspired from, what Pokemon they were inspired by. And that's bad. Can I skip this? No. No, I can skip that, okay. If you can't make a unique design that doesn't just remind people of a Pokemon, I feel like you failed at the creature aspect of your game. Because yes, Pokemon has 1,000 Pokemon designs, but even still, out of 1,000 of their own designs, they don't really have two designs that are like the exact same. Like, yes, they have similar designs, like what's the biggest example? Most recently, Sobble and Gekko. Like, those are similar, but they are very clearly not the same Pokemon. I missed. I wasn't close enough. Ugh. I need the coin. Oh, it broke. There we go. And I think that's something other quote-unquote Pokemon killers need to figure out, is how to make designs that are unique and aren't just explicitly, hey, this is this Pokemon but a different color or a different element. Like, the biggest example I have for that one is it's a Power Pal. It's the green rabbit that's like explicitly just Cinderace but foresty. Bitch. Or even just the one that's, you know, that's Delphox but more mystical, less fire. Speaking more is better than using something. Yeah, exactly. Like, you can use something that exists for inspiration, right? Because you can use, like, oh, Ninetales just uses the inspiration of QB, right? The nine-tailed fox, because Ninetales has 9 tails and is a fox. Squirtle looks like Chespin? Not really. Maybe in the face. And that's it. Like, Scorbunny is a bunny that has fire. Chespin's Hedgehog. Hedgehog? I think Hedgehog's the closest animal that's exactly like it, I think. Like, if you think Scorbunny looks like Chespin, far be it for me to tell you you're wrong, but I'm telling you you're wrong. But yeah, also, Ruby, you made a good point. Most of the money is from their merch and their TCG. It's actually mostly merch, I think it's not even TCG. I think it's specifically their plush line, like their plush and like t-shirt. Which is also funny, because they recently, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago, announced a new Pokemon anime, because people are speculating they did that because they were expecting the game of Winds and Waves to be out this year, not next year. So apparently the story they have for Pokemon, what is Winds and Waves called? Whatever it is, Journeys, I think. Apparently has a definitive end coming up. Like, it's not even they can just delay it. Like, the end of the anime is coming up. Apparently, like there's lore reasons in the anime that apparently it's really close. So they have to like bring out a new anime, like a filler fucking episode essentially of an anime. That's why I need to care about quality, is what I thought. The problem is not they don't need to. It's not that they need to not care about quality. The game needs to be fun, because if people don't attach themselves to the Pokemon in the game, how are they going to want to buy merch? There's a reason why most of their merch is Gen 1, a little bit of Gen 2, and like bits and pieces of Gen 3 and 4 with like Lucario and the EVs and stuff. Because they realized that the age at which you would bond to Pokemon, or I guess the generation you bond to Pokemon, is where they're gonna sell their most merch for. A, for nostalgia purposes, and B, because people want to show off, right, the things that they love. And most people that started with Pokemon, oh, Kieran, hi. Love catching the ending. This is actually the second time I've beat Bowser, because I just now got 120 stars. Anyway, thanks for the follow. Welcome in. Goated game. I will say it was fun up until I beat the game the first time. Purple coins can eat my whole ass. I don't know what I get for 120 stars. We're gonna find out. I think isn't it just playing Luigi? Because I remember seeing the fucking teaser. Like the fucking image that people post. You could now play as Luigi, right? Isn't that what it is? Or is that from Galaxy 2? Either way, don't tell me. But anyway, Ruby, what I'm saying is they need to care about the quality of the game and their Pokemon designs, because if people don't bond to them, nobody's gonna give a fuck about the merch that they bring out. No plushies, no t-shirts, no TCG, none of it. People aren't gonna care if the game isn't good enough to bond to the new Pokemon in. Because like even now, right, they announced the 3 starters. People went crazy for them for like a month, and nobody's really talking about them anymore because they haven't played the game to be able to form an opinion on them. Rosina Giantess Goddess, she is essentially the mother of the stars, is what her lore is. They kind of gotten rid of that because they haven't really gone back to Galaxy. But that's the reason why people call Rosalina mommy. Like, she is quite literally the star mommy. Like, the Lumas are her babies. Don't question why she has babies that aren't human. But yeah, like, I think she can just change her size at will. But again, I think they got rid of that. I think they retconned her ever since she became like a playable character in like Smash and other games. She's still bigger than the other princesses, but if you notice, if you ever notice Rosalina in other games, like not Mario Galaxy, and you wonder why she's bigger than the other princesses, if you actually notice, it's because most of the time Rosalina's floating. Like half the time Rosalina's not actually touching the ground. She chooses to keep a human size with them. Exactly, yeah. Like, she wants to be the same size as other people because it's just, she probably realizes how scary it is to be fucking huge. But like, even in this game, right? Right here, Bowser's normal size. In Galaxy 2, he becomes the size of a fucking planet during his boss fights. So like, the power of the stars, which is what, you know, she was born of apparently, can just give you size.
Welcome, new Galaxy.
Sorry, I love Charles Martinet's voice. That's why I just wanted to shut up and let him talk. Welcome, new galaxy. Can I skip these credits? Please tell me I can skip these credits. I don't have to watch them for the second time. Fuck, I have to watch them. Anyway, I can do a good Mario impression. Kind of. You want to hear my Mario impression? Hey yo, it's a me, Mario. Wahoo and all that. How was that? That was me as Chris Pratt as Mario. Want to hear yours? Go for it. I mean, don't like send me like a audio message. I'm not gonna actually listen to it. I miss him as Mario. So on the new voice, I've only heard him in Wonder. There hasn't been a new game with his voice in it recently, has there? No offense, I don't really want to click like a random thing in people's DMs that I don't really know. Yeah, no, I'm saying, like, has there been another game that uses the new Mario voice besides Wonder? I don't think there has been, has there? Actually, wait, yeah, Mario Kart World and Mario Tennis. Yeah, you're right. Wonder, World, Kart World, and I think the new tennis game. But I don't have the other tennis game. But either way, he sounds good enough. Like, he sounds like Mario. His pitch probably isn't exactly the same, but he sounds like Mario. And like, I'm pretty sure Charles Martinet like quite literally gave him the thumbs up of approval. But it also sucked because I'm pretty sure he also mentioned that they never really told him that they moved on from him as his voice. So that's kind of fucked up, if I recall. But remember, Charles Martinet is also the voice of Mario's dad in the Mario movie. As long as it's not AI, I'm pretty sure it's not AI. I actually don't know who the new voice is. I never looked up if they actually have like a credit for him yet. Yeah, he's Mario for 35 years, right? Maybe 40? Has it been 40 years? 39 years probably, give or take. Yeah, it's like I never really saw the credits in Wonder, so I never remember the credits, so I don't actually know what credit they have for the new voice. Either way, doesn't matter. He's Mario. That's all I care about. But remember, yes, Martinet did voice in the Mario movie as Mario's dad, and apparently, from what I understand, he used the voice for Mario's dad as the voice that he originally wanted to do for Mario. Because there's an interview with Charles Martinet early on, not for the movie, but early on, where he went in for auditions, right? And he was given this, like, the script for the character, essentially, right? Like the character bio. And it was like, oh, he's a plumber from New York, essentially, right? So Charles Martinet wanted to do like a gruff New York voice. Mario and Galaxy, I don't believe so. I don't remember. Pretty sure he's not, because they actually never went back to I believe they never went back to the human world, so they stayed in the Mario universe, if that makes sense. In quotes. He thought the gruff voice was too risky. No, I think what happened was, I think the execs thought the gruff voice was too much. So then they told him, do a stereotypical Italian. And he did. And they fucking loved it, so that's what they stuck with. But apparently, when he went to the the Super Mario Brothers movie, he gave Mario's dad the voice that he wanted all along.
Thank you so much for playing my game.
Yeah, I don't think anybody from the human world was in Mario Galaxy, besides Mario, Luigi, and Peach. Spoiler alert, Peach is actually not human either. But I won't give you guys more info than that. Alright, what do I get for 120? Tell me. Flashbang, that's what I get. Hello, Rosalina. God damn, that's aura right there. Good lord. There's just like post credit for 120. Is there actually nothing to do?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Why is she orphan? Exactly. I will watch over you from beyond the stars. You're welcome. Is that it? Is that actually it? Because I'm kind of upset if that's all. That's it for an extra 20 stars. Those are some beautiful heels, by the way. Ooh, we never see her feet. That's actually one of the very rare times you actually see her feet. Outside of like sports games where they give her, you know, they get rid of her dress. What if I catch a stream to read Twitter pop up and repeat? Oh, you got me kid from Twitter? Thank you so much for being here then. Yeah, go to sleep. I appreciate you. Good night. Thank you so much. Feel free to drop by whenever you can. I know I stream late for most people. What is this? What's this? What's this? Oh, it's him. It's the Luma that was in my cap. Wait, do I get to go there? Is that what I have to do?
Super Luigi Galaxy.
It's the thing! It's the thing! I do not want to play through the entire game as Luigi again. I'm gonna, like, just trust me on that.
Luigi.
Oh my god, is it actually the whole fucking game over? Hang on, I'm gonna do this. Is it really the entire fucking game over again? Don't worry, Barry. I can literally. Oh my god, it's literally the same game. Wait, it's not. This is not the same cutscene. Actually, no, this might be the same cutscene. This is the same cutscene. Luigi's so fast. Got a job as a tire technician, paid weekly 3 days off. Ooh, that's nice. I also get 3 days off. Like getting, like honestly, the difference between 3 days off and 2 days off is actually astronomical. It's kind of crazy. It really is so much better to have an extra day off. I'm glad you have a better job. Also, I'll come back from the ads, and Very, you don't gotta tell me the ads are up. I can see that the ads are up, and I can also see the timer. Come back. You just need to tell me if you can't hear me. Where's the grass that I should have hit it in? Oh, this grass. Luigi's so fast. Kind of hard to control though. Is this really just the same game, by the way? Because if this is the same game, I'm not gonna play the whole game again as Luigi. Classic Luigi controls. You can kind of see it, right? Like it takes him a second to go through it again. It's the same game. Like, it's fine. It's a big ass jump. I know that. Mommy. Sorry, that's what I expect Luigi to say. It looks like it's the same game. Hey, yo? Yeah. Remember, the theory is this is Luigi's wife. Why does it feel like this motherfucker has no neck? Do you see that? Does this motherfucker have no neck? Is that always how he's looked? Motherfucker looks like he's gonna turn into Mimikyu when he gets hit. It's just a thick tongue. If you don't know what I mean by Mimikyu, if you guys don't remember anything about Pokemon, Mimikyu's disguise, when it wears off, it just kind of like snaps and it falls. I will do this 1 star to see if it's literally just the same. It looks like it's just the same game. I can remember a lot of these quotes. Oh, I almost got hit. Oh, baby. It's just one thick tongue. Ew. Don't say that. What the fuck? That's gross. Get me out of here. You know what I want to play, but I don't think I actually can play it because I don't know where my console is, and I do not want to spend money on this. Star Fox Zero. Big boy, die. Sounds like a fun one. I remember it being a fun game. Like, a lot of people didn't like it because it was forced motion controls and forced second monitor, like DS style, right? I thought it was fun. Like, a lot of the stages were a lot, and I mean a lot longer. A lot of the Undertale soundtrack makes me want to cry. A lot of the Undertale soundtrack makes a lot of people want to cry. It's because you remember the situation that the game was in when you heard the song. I just realized something. These switches are on and I'm turning them off. Yeah, I realized it. Yeah, yellow means on, blue means off. That's cool. Ooh, I thought that was a black star. I'm like, that's gonna be so cool to pick up. But it's not. Oh, my shoulder. Damn. Anyway, what were we talking about? Pokemon. Yeah, I don't know. I'm part of the problem, but I still criticize the games. Scarlet and Violet, great game. Looked like shit. Ran like shit. Switch 2? Great. Sword and Shield. A lot better than people give it credit for. People dislike how linear it was. I disagree. I think it was still a good game. Oh, I want to tell history. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, again, most people cry with those songs as well. Yeah, I don't mind linearity. It's fine. Like, even Scarlet and Violet, which was open world, was still technically linear, because you could only realistically fight certain areas at the level you're in. Yeah, it's just the same game. We'll swap to Bacopia right now to get the explanation. Yeah, exactly. Like, the way they could have made Scarlet and Violet more open world, less linear, is to make the entire game scale with your level, so you don't have to worry about, like, oh, I'm in this area that you expect to be the 5th gym or area, but you're doing it first. So it's like 30 levels above you by accident. Oops. But at the same time, because of that, you also need to make sure that the rewards aren't too powerful, right?
Look.
Because in Scarlet and Violet, the Titan power-ups were literal movement upgrades. So if you were just to do them at your level, you could, if it was scaling, you could just do them first and get all your movement abilities and break the game. All right, I'm not gonna play this. The full game is as Luigi? Nah, maybe that'll be like a sub go or something. Okay, we're going to Buckopia now. Galaxy was fun. Fuck purple coins. Buckopia. Okay, I have not done as much as you guys might think I've done because I just didn't play for like a week, but I did, I think 3, maybe 4 major things. One of them was I found Suicune and Raikou, brought them over to my world. The other thing I did is I found the final unknown tablet. I haven't placed it yet because I want to see if there's a cutscene, so you guys get to see that live with me. Hi. Oh, there's an event happening with Sableye this week. I need to see what that's about. What is this? Free star piece? Oh shit! Thank you. What the fuck? Did I drop a star piece or did Sableye give me it? What the fuck? Anyway, prepare for cozy, guys. Whose house is that? Do I have anybody living there? I built this and I think yeah, it's nobody's house. Oh, I need furniture. That's why it's nobody's house. Ooh, Poké Medal. Thank you. Oh, look at him eating a berry. He thinks he's a person. He's a balloon. Look at him. Anyway, I got 1 Mew stamp this week. Thank fucking God. My first 5 stamps of the week, by the way. All the starters. Ooh, Zapdos. That's a good one. What do we got? Grow plants, dig up treasure, give presents. Giving presents is fine. Ooh, that's an oblong ass rug. Iron plating? Ooh. Anyway, what do you want, Sableye? What are you doing here? Twinkle twinkle, this shine. Is it maybe jewels? Oh, it's not. It is just your twinkling, smiling eyes. Twinkling? Where the fuck is the twinkling in these eyes? I'm happy meeting you in your twinkling, shining smile. Yee. Does anybody see the twinkling in the room with us? I mean, it's in my eyes, but not Ditto's eyes. It dwells in the darkness of caves. It uses sharp claws to dig up gems to nourish itself. Dark ghost. It likes sour. Can I feed it a sour berry? Are there any around here? Maybe there are, maybe there are not. What do you want? Shining and sparkling red crystal fragments. Have some, would you share? I'd be happy to also reward you. Breaking red crystal clusters. Find some on a dream. Oh, dream islands. Okay. Good to know. Yes. So I have my final thing here. Yo, Electro, what are you doing up there? What are you doing with the boys? A boat. I got myself a boat. What's up? What up, Electro? What the fuck do you want? I like Electro. He's a funny guy. Alright, let's go. I swear to God, I thought this fucking vine was a Pokemon. Looked like a fucking Caesar or something. Let's go dump this thing off. The final one. What's gonna happen? Touch.
Yeah.
We're being what the fuck? I thought we were being transported. It's Mew! I mean, I figured because it's literally what the mural was. Hi, little kitty. You're so cute. I love Mew so much. Dang, what a great nap. Hey, you the one who called me here? Need me for something? Huh? You wanna be my friend? Haha! Heck yeah, let's be buddies. Come chat whenever you have time. I need to give him a house. I'm gonna make him my roommate. You're mine. The new species Pokemon. It's very intelligent and can use an incredible variety of moves. Spoiler alert, Mew is one of few Pokemon that can learn every single TM in any generation that it's in. Many believe that all other Pokemon are descendants of this one. You like sweet spaces or sweet flavors. I'm gonna make you my friend. Heading out with my bestie. Give you a sweet berry. You can have it. Here you go. Yeah. You're welcome. I'll let him eat it. Oh, that was quick. You liked it. Okay. Go over here. You're my roommate. Does he actually fly? He does. No, he doesn't. He took the stairs. How polite. You're making me bricks. That's cute. You are my roommate. Get your ass over here. You want to live here? You want to live here? No way. Are you sure it's okay for me to live here? You can live on the... Oh, you can have the high rise. Here you go. How are you feeling? I just started living here. Okay, you're right. That reminds me. Do I do anything with the legendary dogs? Or do I just have them? Do they do anything for me? I'm curious. Is there anything? Okay, I'm just missing Mewtwo, honestly, but I forget which Dream Island gets me Mewtwo. Let's find it. I do need to go to a Dream Island to pick up some red crystal shards anyway. So where do we get Mewtwo? Okay, it's Sky. Which I believe Sky is Dragonite, if I recall. He's making me brick! Look at him! Motherfucker's going to work! Get the twerk, get the twerk. Anyway, I have to go to the beach. because surprisingly, the most work that I've done in Pokopia has actually been at the beach, because I want to get the beach to max level. Because it's the only one I don't have level 10. So I stuffed Raikou and Suicune at the beach. Ow, my shoulders. Lugia? Why the fuck did you spawn, Lugia? Lugia! Where are you? Where actually are you? Directly above me, I'm guessing. Hi! If you're wondering how I know it's Lugia, surprisingly, I know exactly what Lugia's cry is. I do not have Ho-Oh's cry memorized, because I played Pokemon Silver as a kid, not Pokemon Gold. So I know if it's not Lugia, it's Ho-Oh. Drop your feather, please. Thank you very much. Also, something I found out, you can speed up his Dragonite. I don't know how I didn't know that, but I didn't know that. I never tried, I guess, is the big thing. Where's Suicune? Look at them. They're roommates over here. They have a very basic home, but they're roommates. Where are my guys at? Where'd they at? Where'd they go? Someone's here. I know who this is. I think Miss Magius is here now. Miss Magius, show yourself. Also, do you guys say Miss Magius or Miss Magus? Or sorry, Magus. Miss Magius! Hi! How did I know? It's the only Pokemon in this habitat that has not spawned yet. Ah, I knew I'd find a good home sooner or later. It was me searching after. Oh, I hate him already. They're that bitch. You bit this place? That's an impressive feat. Thank you. There, I've cast a good luck spell on you as thanks. These my spells sometimes bring happiness, but they can also bring torment. I'm sure it'll be just fine though. I've got a feeling. Oh, this bitch just cursed me. Its cries sound like incantation to torment the foe. It appears when you least expect it. I mean, I wasn't expecting it for sure. Oh, home theater? Oh, it's the only person that spawns in the home theater. Office storeroom is done. Fluffy flower bed is done. You like bitter. I will give you bitter. Here you go. Let me give you bitter, which is the rawest. Alright, if you're wondering what I've done, I've lit up this entire area. I found Absol, who liked the resort package, so this is like all of the resort items that you can make. This is Absol's house. I have more habitats I need to make, but I haven't made them yet. What else? Obviously built a couple houses. I also fixed up a couple houses, so like I've given Meowth kind of a roof, but I also need to kind of fix it up because I need to add in everything else that's in here. Like I fixed up all the roofs, make them a lot nicer. I have no space. I need to make some room. If I plan to go to a dream island, let's make some space. Wait, no. I have 99 leaves. Is that what's going on? Oh, I don't have any of these. What the fuck? I have so many plants and things I need to drop. What do we need here to drop off? The leaves. I need some wood. Like I need wood, not just. Let's drop off that. I don't want to have too much. We'll drop off a star piece. That's fine. I have a lot of these things I need to just drop off somewhere. We wanted the damp rock again. Oh, I remember now. It's Gloom. I found this damp rock and I remembered Gloom specifically wanted his house to be more moist. That's not what I wanted to tell him about. Does he like it? Does he actually? Oh, he likes the light? Oh shit. Hey, if he likes it for free, fuck it. You can have it. You like it? You actually like it? Nice. Oh, what has he been trying? Okay, he likes it. Hell yeah, I just fixed up the bathroom, but apparently he likes it. Somebody wanted moisture, and I forget who it was. I guess it wasn't Gloom. Who the fuck was it? Anyway. This spot for the most part is the same. I fixed up this bridge. Bye, Marie. Bye, Marie. That reminds me, let me give you a nice spicy meal. Wait, I have a request in this area, don't I? I like how it's like, put spicy food there. I literally just put a spicy carrot, but he wants specifically a prepared dish. So I'm gonna make like a spicy soup or something. Anyway, I did over here. Look at this. I have some torches to light the way. I fixed up that bridge over there to go to the ship, and I made a nice little walkway all the way over here. Now, if you're wondering what the important thing about this is, Executor has been stranded on this island for like actually the entire time I've played this game. So now he doesn't have to be stuck. He can just walk and get out of here. Right here, Executor's been here for fucking ever, literally forever. Wait, are there any habitats I can make here? Because there's some stuff here I can probably mess around with. Habitats! Need to figure out how to make these eerie candles, because this is obviously Chandelure. What's this one? The garden terrace. Oh, it's just Venusaur. I don't think I have all of the Pokeball items, but if I get all of them, I can do that. Anything else I can make? Do I have... I don't have the... Oh shit, I should make this. It's raining here now. Chic chair, table, push cart, vase food. Okay, that's fine. I can do that. I literally have a plate I can steal here. Okay, now I need... I know I have some chic items. Do I have them on me? That's the chic sofa, which I don't need. I need 2 chairs. Uh-oh, that's not what I wanted. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'll put it back. Nobody pay attention to the fact that this fence is floating. Nobody pay attention to the what's the word? The matrix being broken. was it again? It's chic table chair vase. I can make most of these. Maybe not the push cart potentially. Thanks, Growlithe. Thanks for being a good boy. Hello, Prinplup. Where's a? How do I get Empoleon? Because I have Piplup and Prinplup, but not Empoleon. Wait. Those random ass poles down there. I just noticed. Hi, Lapras. What do you want? Oh, just has the zoomies. Got it. Any chic stuff here? No. Alright. Chic table, chic chairs right here. Chic chairs. I have no room. And I must scream. Where do I make this? I'll make it right here next to Flappy. Wait, the chair's got to be next to it. Do that. We'll make the entire area water hazard for people. What can I throw away that I just don't fucking need? There's so much shit that I have, man. Oh my god. I guess I could plant these, put these away. Oh, ad break. I just gotta plant some flowers and be done with it. See, these motherfuckers keep giving me flowers for gifts. It's sweet, but I have to plant them. Remember, guys and girls and everybody in between, never give flowers as a gift unless the person is a gardener. It's a pain in the fucking ass to maintain. Nobody wants to take care of flowers. It's a good gesture. It's a waste of fucking money. Squishy clay. Yay. Don't care. Don't care. Didn't ask. What do you want? What do you want? Don't give me more flowers, please. Okay, that's iron ore. That's fine. Oh, that's twine. Even more fine. Do you have a berry in your mouth? The fuck? Alright, you got a DM. Okay. So many flowers, so little time. Oh, I do have a pushcart. Oh, that's good to know. I need to make 2 chairs. And then we're done. No, 2 chairs. 2 chairs. Okay. Go! Go! Actually, wait. I know what I'm gonna do. We're actually gonna make it face the water. We'll do this way. shit, isn't the pushcart on the right? Shit. Can it be on the left? Let's find out. Can the pushcart be here? Can't move it because the plate's on there? Really? Good to know. Where's the plate at? There's the plate. Did I like kind of screw up? Huh, so it specifically has to be on the right side? That's interesting. Oh, the flower. Duh. Oops. I'm just a little stupid. I'm sorry. Do I have the vase on me? I know I have a vase. Oh, I can make one. Whee! Can I make it now, though? I can't, in fact, make it now. That's the first one I made? Oh, shit. Okay. Okie dokie dokie. This should be the end. As DMX would say, this is the way. Yes! Alright, it's specifically when raining, right? It's not just nighttime. Right. It's when raining. So now we play the waiting game. Wait. Somebody finally spawned here? It's been forever. Who is it? It's a ghost. It's gotta be Ghastly, right? Oh shit, Dustclops. Or yeah, Dustclops. Boo! Boo! To talk to me! You must be very brave! Nice to meet you, Ditto. Let us be friends for ages to come. I will outlive you, but don't pay any mind to that. The others, they are scared of me. They run when I am seen, but you are okay, I think. Boo boo, I am happy. Heart. The Beacon Pokemon, Dusclops is feared because it's said to pull the soul out of anyone who gazes upon the strange movements of his hands. Oh. You like sour, of course you would. You like sour, which is Aspir. Everybody fucking likes sour, and I only have one Aspir tree, man. Somebody better spawn here soon. Pomo! I'm coming! Wait, Tundrafall. Oh no, I already have that. I was gonna be really happy that I got the Tundra fossil body. I need the Aerodactyl fossil body. Why does it think I have a weird glow on it? Oh yeah, that's right. I gave it a crystal. Not a crystal ball. A little, like the little shiny ball. I need to go check that furnace. How much fuel does it have still? Surprisingly has a lot of fuel. Good to know. I'm gonna die. Whee, whee. I have not talked to Execute in a while, by the way. He's kind of just been a forgotten member of this island. Sorry, this area. I need to go to the Skyrim Island, which I only have, I believe, in the Skylands. This is the only place I actually have a Dragonite plush. Ow. We're home. You know what? I haven't gone to Pallet Town in a while. Bye, Tinkaton. Bye, Tinkaton. I swear to God, I thought I saw Tyrantrum here. But he doesn't live here. I love the cozy music this place gives, like legitimately. Bye, Dragonite. Bye, Dragonite. I want to talk to your plush, not to you. Ah, my back. Oh, my back is killing me today. Oh yeah, I found Servine. I don't know if you guys remember being here. Hey, what's up? Oh, Servine's still shy. Can you give me flowers? Oh, you give me tomatoes. That's okay. That's fine. I thought you gave me flowers, for fuck's sake. Oh yeah, I made these lifts that kind of give Snivy a way off his fucking stranded ass island over there. There's a lot of Pokemon that have just been stranded because it was easier just to keep them in certain areas. Hi Porygon, bye Porygon. I found a habitat for Porygon Z, by the way. Not Porygon 2, Porygon 2. Yo, what are you guys talking about? Hi. It's just gossiping behind the plush aisle. Gasp. Something must have been said that shocked her. Or him, sorry. I don't want to gender curly without knowing what gender curly actually is. She's happy now. Oh, these bitches are talking mad shit about somebody. Okay, bye guys. Sorry. I was in the way. Apologize. Is this the Skyrim Island? This is. Ooh, it gives me... Oh shit, I need to make sure I have... specifically, Rock Smash food. I don't have a lot of it. I need to put shit away. I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need you. Like, I damn near don't need that shit. Or these, or these, or these, or these, or these, or these. The rest of it I can keep for now. Okay, let's see if we find Mewtwo or not. You know, one thing I also found out is the Pokedex trick does actually work. Because the time I found Suicune, they showed up in the Pokedex as an unknown, and the time I found Raikou, they showed up as in the Pokedex as a known Pokemon, because I found him in the story. So if I check the Pokedex and I see Mewtwo, that means he's actually there, and I just have to find him. All right, let's find out. Are you here? We do this, we do this. He is not here. You might be wondering, how do I know? I found Mewtwo part of the story, so even if I click unknown, it's not gonna matter. But I still need to find red crystals, I believe. Not Stardust. You guys hear something? Is that an alarm that went off? Like, actually, did I hear an alarm up here? Or is that part of the music? A lot of crystal, but I don't want it. The fuck do you find red crystal fragments at? Are they only in the like the underground? Hey, grandfather clock. Oh, you know what? Give me that. I don't think I have one. I do have one. Give me that as well. I think I need to make another trashy site, so give me that. Any more trash somewhere that I can grab? Doesn't look like it. Bunk. Break these for iron. There is an alarm clock, but why did it go off and I heard it? No. I need to make soup. What the fuck is up here? Oh, a tire toy. Cool. Is there any... There is a trash. Give me that. Well, that's right. I need to break like clusters, so they probably are actually in the like the mines area. This area of this dream island. This place is big. Why is this place so much bigger than the rest? Wait, I need spotlights too. Pokeball them. Oh my god. The alarm did go off. What the fuck? You might be thinking to yourself, why do I need an alarm? Why do I need this? You'll see. Fluff. Pokemetal. More Pokemetal. Ooh, there's a big cluster down there. Nice cardboard. But hopefully everybody's having a good night, by the way. Crystals! Ooh, habitat info. What we got? Anything new? Actually a new habitat, please? Not something I already know about? Oh my god. God damn it, that makes sense. 9 flames gives you 9 tails. Duh. It's a really silly habitat, but that makes sense. What's in here? Career Monthly, Volume 11. We're back again with even more info about dream jobs working with Pokemon. This month, we talked with some of the nice ladies who spend their time talking to trainers and patching up Pokemon at Pokemon centers. Nurse Joy, where do they find joy in their jobs? What challenges do they face? What are their favorite Pokemon? Read on to find out all and that and more. Do I get a Nurse Joy outfit? Yes! Keep that shit on. I will remain a Nurse Joy. There's a lot of Pokemetal down here. I need to grab it. There's actually a lot of Pokemetal. Jesus. Go! Couple of rare fragments as well. That's good. 2 rare ones. That's really good, actually. Anyway, let's get out of here. Where's the next hole? Every hole is a goal, after all. Oh, I can speed up with this. Oh, that's such a good thing to know. This game felt so... Oh my god, that's a lot of crystals. Folding chair. Here comes Dano with the steel chair. So usually these pedestals are where the Pokemon would spawn if you actually had them. The fuck? I only grabbed 3, not 4. Hang on. Wait, sorry, had a message to respond to again. I'm setting something up. A lot of Pokemetal. Give me all the Pokemetal. Ooh, 5. That's actually really nice. More habitat, please. Oh, it's all Pokemetal. Always has been. I don't want to spend too much time in here because I kind of want to keep building habitats. Ah! I just want to. That's not what I wanted. Grab it. Alright. Any more red crystals I can get before I leave? That's Stardust. No. Yeah, this looks like the red crystals are in fact just inside the mines. When I was young, I yearned for the mines. God, dude, why does so much of the Minecraft movie have really stupid quotes? Also, besides that, like, why is it that when people say quotes about, like, the Minecraft movie, they only say the same, like, 4 lines? Like, was the rest of the movie that bad that all that was memorable was just the 3 or 4 memeable lines? Anyway, let's get out of here. Yeah, let's get out of here. Oh, hydrate. Wow, thank you, Rage. Oh my god, it's been so quiet. I wasn't sure if I was still online. Sorry, my stream deck doesn't even have names for my toggles anymore. What the fuck? I think that's just a stream deck issue. Thank you. Okay. Got all of this. Grow plants grow. I have something to grow. I just need to put it near Spaghettito. Where is Sprigatito? Is he actually around, or is he dead? Oh, Snivy, you're here. I could use you too. Get over here. Maybe the kind is being a little bit. No, it's fine. No, you're good. I know I'm very playing and doing very cozy things. It's just whenever it's quiet for like 30 to 45 minutes without even like a channel points redeem, I'm just like, did my internet go down? Am I still streaming? Am I just sitting here playing on my own? Pretending like I'm live? Is Sabla even here? Oh wait, he would be in here, right? Yeah, just like hop pip. I have 36. I'm curious, do I have habitats for him or no? Oh, whoa, there's a whole other thing here? What is this? Oh, a tent? Sure. I want one of everything. I don't know... What Pokemon am I gonna find with this? I'm curious. No, I just want one. I have no room again. Dump that there. I don't want it. I didn't want that either. Put that shit back. No stealing. Nobody ever steal from the Pokemon Center. Oh yeah, you guys want to know something funny? I recently saw a tweet of somebody like absolutely making like very clear insult to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet for supposedly Arvin having a very weak story, and their reasoning was, you're telling me no Pokemon Center could cure his Mabostiff, and he had to resort to the Herba Mystica, and people were quick to point out, motherfucker, you don't know how to read. He literally stated, no modern medicine works. And I'm just like, man, the allegations that Pokemon players don't know how to read are just as true as if they were Yu-Gi-Oh players. Give me this. Okay, so I know I'm missing these 6 items. Excuse me. Keep them all together so I just don't forget. Where'd I grab? I forgot. The camping pot. As for the habitats, I have no idea what I'm gonna make with them. I might have to legitimately look it up online. Let's go back to the beach. I already have you. Get your ass back in there. I don't want you. Stay on the ground. Oh, ad coming soon. Get ready. ba. Ba, 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 ba. Alright, let's go see if motherfucker spawned. Are you there? Are you there? You are not. That's kind of sad. That's kind of depressing. Table for two. Nobody's here. I guess we go back to Pallet Town. I haven't been there in a long time. There's some shit I gotta place. Actually, I have a question. Inventory, where are you? What do I have? I have to find something that I dropped off. I don't know where I could have dropped it off at. I'm gonna assume back at Pewter City, Radiant City, whatever you want to call this place. With the wastelands. But we'll see. Oh, this game is so cozy. Alright. Need to fix up this like pathway. Need to get some brick tiling, I think it's called. But first, I need to check my random inventories. I need to find the thing I'm looking for. Where are you? I dropped something off and I need to find it. Because I noticed they just gave me a habitat on one of my islands that needs a very specific item. What is this? Oh, it's a rowlet clock. I didn't realize I got that. The fuck? Oh, fuck. Where could it be? Oh, this could be literally anywhere, bro. Actually, it might be... It could be... It could literally be anywhere, actually, now that I think about it. I'm just gonna teleport. It's actually faster. Surprisingly, it's faster to go through one load screen than like 3 of them. Okay, now I have like a... Also, I kind of fixed up this area a bit. I put an elevator. Who the fuck was that? Oh, what the fuck? What's up? Yo, what up, Rotom? What the fuck are you doing here? I mean, you could just say you live here, but still. I have to move. It's a bit too dark. Well, fuck you. I'll move your ass. Get over here. Yo, thanks for the free wood. I'm gonna move him specifically because I believe his habitat also houses one other Pokemon, which I'm assuming is Magnezone. So get your ass up here. Live with the dragon boys. There you go. And do you still want it to be bright? wanted you down here. Thank you. Okay. Open that up because I believe this habitat houses another Pokemon. Oh yeah, I need to make some platters. Wait, do I not have that already? I'm curious, hang on. There's one that has 4 platters. Where are you? This one. I have to put food in it? Alright, fuck it. Take that. Take that. Take that. And take that. Does it require two benches? It is 2. Fuck, that's why. Get your butt over here. Bam. Is it 1 or 2 Pokemon? I didn't even notice. It is 2. Who would this be? Ooh, what would this be? Like a Indeedee, maybe? If Indeedee's in this game? Okay, I added an elevator because, I don't know, I felt like Pokemon deserved to go up the stairs. So I added an elevator. Get away! Where is the item that I'm looking for? I do have it right here. The photo cutout board, that's what I wanted. Now, if you're wondering what I'm doing with it, it is way up here. Also, I gave Clefairy a very nice home. Because Clefairy complained it was too bright, so I gave them a literally new home to make it darker for them. Oh, this might suck. Because I need to do... this, plus 2 spotlights. But they need to be turned on, so I need electricity. How am I gonna get electricity up here? Could be this, but it's kind of annoying. Do that. I need to make wireless for this. 100% I need the wireless ones. Except for the top one. The top one could be the wired. Wait, no, they all have to be wireless, now that I think about it. I can make this too, the clear bell. Wait, wait, what? Wait, what? I can do that? Does this make a habitat, or does this just allow me to call Ho-Oh for free? Can I make Ho-Oh a resident? Let's make 5, that's all I should need for now. Okay, now how am I gonna do this? It's the best way to do it, probably from here. No, this doesn't work. How does it connect to that? To put it here. And go up from here. This does not reach as far as it should, but... there we go! Change this for one of those. There we go. might be wondering, how did that habitat not get activated? Because I believe like these things don't get activated until I'm literally in front of them. Bink. Because it wants to give me the little cutscene. Now, who spawns here? I'm assuming, based on how it looks, it's Plusle and Minun. But I also needed this to be high up in the air. It had to be high up. Cool. Anybody else spawned? Nobody else. I think I had to move Jigglypuff too, actually. I think Jigglypuff's helm has another friend that can join up. Let's double check. I haven't seen where it is at this point. I already passed it, I bet. Where is it? Keep your eyes peeled. If you see it, point it for me. Oh, I gotta do this one too. There you are. Yeah, there's one more. I need to give you another house. I will let you. Actually, I'll let you sleep with Clefairy. 2 pink twins. Come along. Thank you. Going up. It's a very picturesque cycle. Look at the side on this elevator. Look how much you can see. Come here. Live with your pink brethren. Are we milking gold? Absolutely. Actually, wait, that sounds like a pea joke. We are not milking gold, we are just milking. I need to make some hamburger, speaking of. There's a kitchen here that has a frying pan, right? There is in fact. The bugger. Well, no, it's because I use rock smash so much that I actually need specifically a lot of hamburger sticks compared to like anything else. I need to make some soup, and I know exactly where I can make soup here. Only one spot I have that I can make soup with. Go! It's actually really deep in here. Oh, I love this song. I love this entire place. Ah, this music is so cozy. Is this music on Nintendo Switch music app or whatever the fuck it's called yet? I have no water. I made this house party. This is what they consider to be a house party. What do you think? What do you guys think? Is this a good house party? 2 drinks and 1 fruit. Also, do you guys want to see a cursed image? Look at this is my Aerodactyl. What do you guys think? He has no body and 1 wing. He is a 1-winged angel. No, we go back. I forgot it didn't have any water. You find more parts of this like that. When you see me dig like the glowing spots, it's entirely random if you find the right fossil. And it's not relics that give you fossils, they're literally just the fossil parts. So like it is entirely RNG if you actually get what you want. Oh, here's a new one. There's the left wing. Oh, I need the center part. I can actually get the center part pretty easily, by the way. Where is it? Hey, can I not make the thing I'm looking for? I thought I could make it. I thought it was just... Or do I only have the one item? I can probably buy it, honestly. Oh shit, okay. We're going back to the wastelands. Wait, yeah, no, the other two fossils there, the Aurorus and the Tyrantrum, I finished that myself. I think there was the body of the Tyrantrum there already when I was there, but nothing else. And there was not even a single piece of the Aurorus fossil. Same thing for the Rampardos fossil. I made that somewhere in Rocky Ridges as well. There's Aerodactyl, and there's one more I'm missing. Bastiodon I made in Palatown. But since I'm now only missing, I think it's only missing the body, I'm gonna basically cheat, if you guys want to call it that. I just need to find the item that allows me to cheat. There you are. And now I have to go to Twitter because I need to find a code that I forget. There we go. I wonder if they would sound like cavemen if they're still alive. They probably, I mean, they would probably. The address is, and this is absolutely a public island. They have absolutely stated you can go there, take pictures of everything you fucking need, cheat as much as you fucking want. Like, this helps for like fossils and stuff. Because I do not want to fucking wait forever. Oh. Is this the one I'm looking at? Yeah, this is the one. Honestly, they probably wouldn't have sounded like cavemen. They would have sounded like how we would against Neanderthals, like monkeys, right? So we're entering a virtual island. We have no ability to affect their island. We can only take pictures and run around for like ideas. Also, in the corner said downloading because you have to download the entire island. So I used this island once before just to get ideas for habitats that I needed. So this guy literally has everything just displayed. Take a picture, whatever the fuck you want. So like this armor, I want this armor, but it's random how you get it, by the way. This I'm gonna take a picture of because I just want it. Because you need to get 2 armor fragments that you just find randomly on the ground, just like fossils. And I'm not waiting for RNG to be nice to me. Everything else, oh, fine, I can get on my own. But like these are all habitats, by the way. Every single one of these are habitats. Like this is how you need to make habitats for these guys, and I already know that. This is the Ectrodactyl fossil. Oh shit, wait. I didn't realize you can do this. Oh fuck, I didn't know this. I was wondering if it was just the evolved versions. The little ones you can create too. Oh my god. Thank you, oh glorious leader. How does being your help if you can't take anything? So, here, you can take pictures, right? If you look at the bottom down here, this button, the Y button, it is in material capture mode. So, you see it hovering over something, it tells you what the item is. If you take a picture of an item as it's being hovered like this, I can go to the Pokemon Center in my game and I can quite literally use a 3D printer to make a copy of it. If you notice my camera reel, right here, my album, if you go to references, you see I've already taken a couple of them. I did that for the gaming items because I just couldn't find them. The fishing rod, I did that because I think I haven't made one yet, but I did it because I think I couldn't find another one, but I just kept using the same one. So these I will eventually turn into items using a 3D printer. The last reason I'm here is because I want the body of Aerodactyl, because I believe that's all I need. Body, tail, left wing, head. The legs are not separate, right? Yeah, okay. Cool, so that's every fossil I need. I just didn't want to deal with RNG. So like, let's say... Hey, Venusaur, what's up? Trying to think. Like, let's say you wanted... Yeah, fossil. You're just gonna get it. Come here, take a picture of it, 3D print it. Let's say you want these lamps, right? I have the red and the orange one right now. If you wanted to RNG and get the rest of these 5, it might take for you forever. Just take a picture of it. You can copy it. I have everything else here. Like, again, he just literally has everything out there, by the way. If you guys know anything about Pokemon, you will know that this picture, this exact poster is actually from Scarlet and Violet. Oh, no, sorry, Legends EA. It's way too high res to be Scarlet and Violet. This is a Legends EA poster. Like, if you run around Legends EA and look at like the billboards, like the electronic billboards, you'll find this exact picture of Sprigatito drinking whatever kind of drink that is. Yeah. Like, this motherfucker just has the entire encyclopedia of every single habitat you could ever build. Like, I don't know. I didn't know you could make this one. Oh, let me see. I'm trying to find one that I don't actually know about. I know most of these already. I know this one already. I just haven't built it. Like, this one I just made. What's one that I don't know about? The thing is, I know most of these already. What is one I don't know about? This one right here. This is a really weird habitat. It's an Arcanine, 2 chairs, a desk, and a lamp. You could just take a picture of this for reference. This doesn't function with the 3D printer. This is just you, like, making a picture to remember it. It's really cool, really handy. And like here, I went here once, and this is how I found out that every single different type of liquid has its own fishing spot. And then also, if you wanted to cheat in Palatine, right, they give you one of these items for free for missions. If you wanted to cheat, you could just take a picture of it and 3D print it yourself to cheat your way to getting whatever evolution is tied behind it. How do I leave? Like this? Yes. Wait, no. How do I leave? I forgot already. No. How do I leave this place? Ah, there we go. Wrong button. No. I hate how it defaults to no. Get back in there. We're leaving the Matrix. Bye. That's also a reason why when I went to the island, the Dream Island, I actually was mining some Pokemetal because I believe every item is guaranteed to cost Pokemetal, and depending on the rarity of the item, it's worth more Pokemetal or even rare Pokemetal. I like how Ditto's like, whoa, VR is awesome. Put that away. There's no limit to how many things you can 3D print, by the way. It's just how much Pokemetal you have. So you go over here, make a copy of the body. It is worth 2 rare Pokemetals, if you notice down here. The spotted ones, that's rare Pokemetal. So it's actually a pretty expensive item. Because if you might imagine by the name, rare Pokemetal is pretty rare. Cool, so we have that. And I'm gonna make these just because I do not want to fucking... I do not want to mine the like 5 a day glowing spots for a chance at the armor fragment that I then have to craft into this armor. So like it's like 3 steps to make the shit and I'm just not gonna bother. Too much stuff, are you serious? What don't I want? This shit. Get your ass right there. Cool. Need to figure out where I want to dump these guys out though. Okay. So now let's go back to the ridges. And I can finish out the Aerodactyl fossil. And I also just learned that I could also make the babies with their like sprite fossil, if that makes sense. Like the sail fossil, the shield fossil, skull fossil. Which one am I missing? Jaw? Yeah, jaw fossil for Tyrant. I was wondering if it was just the big guys, but no, it's not. Alright, did I need a Pokemon spawn? Anybody spawn up here? Yo, Rowlet, what, or Dartrix, what are you doing? Anybody? Man, that's really upsetting. Nobody spawned yet. Even here, what's up? Why is nobody here? Y'all are assholes. Alright, where are my fossils? Here, these guys. What else can I put away? Wait, I have... No, I have the... What does the heat rock do? Hey, what's this? Oh, it's a berry clock. I don't want this paint anymore. Or this stardust. Stardust. Now we can grab one of these 2, because this will allow me to get shield on and Cranidos. No, yeah, Cranidos. See here, it's the red Pardos fossil. I just put it here, I don't know, I just wanted it closer to home. Oh wait, don't I have a... I do, fuck yes. I know what I'm doing with that. I'm going to make Amara my neighbor. Because Amara is probably one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Aurorus is also up there, but I think Amara takes the case, like take the cake like way above it. Let's put it here. Where my fossils at? Skull armor. Where's my sail fossil? Fuck. Fuck. Thought I had the sail fossil somewhere. Habitat info? Or, sorry, Pokemon info. This is giving me Pokemon info, whereas Dream Islands give you habitat info. Oh, that's easy to get. What was that? Haunter and Gengar from there? That's good. Okay, easy peasy. Oh, ad break. I think my fossils are back in the wasteland, or yeah, back in the wasteland, I think. I don't think I put them away anywhere. Anyway, we're going back, finishing the Aerodactyl fossil. We're finishing the Aerodactyl fossil and putting Shield on and Cranidos down. Shit. This is how to do it. This is the right wing, so it goes there. This is the left wing, so it goes here. Some big ass wings. I just noticed. There's the tail and the head. And it obviously only spawns Aerodactyl. So then we have here the shield habitat. Sorry, armor fossil display, whatever. That will give me shield on eventually. And then this one will give me Cranidos eventually. Now I'm just missing the jaw and the sail, which I know I have them just somewhere. I'll have to come back later, because I'm pretty sure they're not just gonna spawn for free. They could, but usually it takes a bit. Maybe I'll come back in like, I don't know, 20 minutes. Whee! Sir? Nobody up there? Nobody's up there. Wait, I need to find my other two fossils. They're not here. Oh, wait, I need water. Rosary Tea Lake is a hot spring. Anybody spawn? Doesn't look like it. Hi, Tyrantrum. I might get your son back. Oh, you know what I saw? I saw something really funny on Twitter. Apparently, people are saying that Bad Dragon just released Dollar Store Bowser. Hey. Okay. Where's my fossils at? Hand them over. think it's this one here. What's up? Yo, he was making me bricks earlier. I'm all bricked up now, guys. Hell yeah. This where I have him? No. Oh, speaking of, I want to put that down and see what it does. Where the fuck are they? I know I have them. Where the fuck? This is what I get for making like a dozen fucking boxes and just dumping them wherever. Maybe they're in the Skylands. I did not want to talk to you. Get out of here. Do I have one inside my house? I actually don't know that. I don't think I do. I know I have that. I can literally make a Mara. Oh wait, I do have you right here. Nothing. Oh, I have the blue one. I have 3 meteor lamps. Sorry, indigo. Aw, look at him. Oh, we gotta go place by place now. Hi, Mew. Bye, Mew. Alright, we're going to the beach next. I've checked Rocky Ridges. I have not checked the Skylands. Me. Oh, my back. Yeah. I love that little hop. Me on my way to spread misinformation. Oh, that's right. I need to work on Raiko's house. Wait, did somebody spawn yet? Still nobody. Oh, it's not raining no more. That's why. Fuck. We need to get this place humid again. I don't think it'll be here because I don't have enough boxes. There's the sail. Now I just need the jaw fossil. I know I have one somewhere. Hi Zoro, bye Zoro. We'll go to the Skylands next, and after that I probably dropped it somewhere. I know I have a fucking jaw fossil. I love how Moslax has the eating ability, which gives you higher odds of different things based upon what food you gave him. I gave him spicy, which makes Pokemon more easily spawn in their habitats. And it hasn't happened yet at all today. Except for Dusclops. Actually, the Dusclops has spawned. Alright, last chance. Fuck! Where the fuck? I thought I had a... Oh, wait, one more box. No! Thought I had a jaw fossil. Wait. I don't have one. No, I do. Wait, what am I missing here? That's the body, but I picked it up. That's weird. I do have a jaw fossil. Fuck, I must have dropped it somewhere. Mother... Idea. I'm not done yet. Not done yet. Mr. Mime, what are you doing out of your cell? Hi, Curlia. There's another box in here. I think this is the last place I have a box. Please. No. Did I throw the jaw fossil away? No. Where? Where, oh where, my beloved? My jaw fossil. Is there another box up here? Bush. Moo moo milk. Nice. Reference to me being milky. Sorry. Did I say that? No, but no, I didn't say that. I'm not Milky. Milky's a streamer, different one than I am. Wait, these things are technically drawers? Did I dump one in these random ass shits? Wait, is this not a habitat? Hold on. Isn't there one that's just all antiques? Where is it? Where are you? Where? Come on, there you are. Oh, it's because it's in Palatine. Not here, never mind. Carry on. Also, you guys like how I put these things in very hard to notice locations? Oh my god, I have a jaw fossil, but where the fuck did I put it at? Growing my streak back? Hell yeah, that's a nice streak. Some people would say it is above average. How's it going, Picunia? Welcome in. Is there a box somewhere that I just didn't remember? It could be in Palatown, actually. I get that a lot, of course. Yeah, it could actually be in Palatown. Are you ready to sleep soon? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I don't get to see me more, that is. Haha! Never mind, sorry. Your sleep is more important. Hi, Gallade. Bye, Gallade. Yo, I do not want to talk to you. Do not stop me. What do you want? You walk around with all that resistance. So much riz, it claps when I walk. Jesus Christ, did I just say that? I'm sorry. Oh my god, I'm such a fucking idiot. It might be in Palatown. Let's go back to Palatown. It's the last one with boxes that I have not checked. Ow. Honestly, don't know how much longer I'm gonna go. I'm getting sleepy too with this game. Still though, I'm proud of you just for me saying stupid things. I'm surprised you're still here, Tano. Alright. Last chance. Hi guys, I haven't been here in a while. No! Fuck. Been editing this whole time. Nice. Has my stream been good editing background noise? And by that I mean very little noise at all. Is there another box I'm missing somewhere? Fuck, man. Did I throw away a fossil and not realize it? Ooh, a fancy pen. I can officially work at Pen Island. Oh shit, it leveled up. Ugh, ready for bed? Nice to come to me. Nicely acceptable. That's funny. I'm glad I'm acceptable, I guess. Like shit, not even good, just acceptable. Damn. I think I need the berry bed as a recipe. Now that I think about it. And the antiques. I don't think I need the chandelier, but I'll grab it anyway. Ugh. Fuck, man. Did I drop a fossil and not realize it? The fuck, bro? Man, that's some bullshit. And actually, there has to be something I'm not remembering. Anyway, while I'm here, if y'all remember, I wanted to make this habitat, but I need power. Huh? Hang on. Is it without the balloons? Is that what it is? It's without the balloons. Oh, it's not close enough, that's what's going on. There we go. It's because the balloons were actually in the way. Oh, what do you want, Snorlax? Hey, what? Somebody's building something? Who the fuck is building something? Did I make a building somewhere and not realize it? So what's up, Metagross? You're gaming ass shit. Oh my god, where the fuck did I drop a freaking fossil at? This is mildly upsetting. I just do not remember. Because I evidently had one. It's in my fucking inventory. Good night, thank you for streaming. Yeah, of course, thank you for being here. Ow! Ow! Head that as you smack my face? Gee, thanks. I need to keep searching. Legitimate, I gotta keep searching. I know I haven't. I'm angry. I'm angry. I'm tilted. Is there any box I didn't remember? Or did I really just like drop it without realizing? Or did I just not see it? Ew, gold teeth. I didn't realize I had some. Anything up here, potentially? Doesn't look like it. Very interesting. Oh shit, I guess I just threw it away and I didn't realize it. Yo, what's up, Vampires? Where the fuck did you spawn from? Ugh, I think I might stop after a quick one final round check of every single box that I think I have somewhere. I'm getting very tired. I've just been tired today. I don't know why. I was almost choking while trying to like take a nap today. Because like I don't usually take naps, so I guess just the position I was in was just not good for my breathing. Still nobody spawned here, huh? I see how it is. Ad break coming. Because there's that, but that's not what I want. I think this is this place with the least amount of boxes, though. Hi! You have bullshit. You have twine and rope. What are you trying to sell? here. Let's go back to the ridges. It has to be over here, I think. I feel like I would probably have all the fossils in the area that has, like, the exhibit. Nothing here. Oh, something happened. Environment level went up? No, it can't be that. Yo, you're playing the bangers right now, buddy. Yo, what's up, Chinchino? Oh, you made paper. Thank you. Actually appreciate that. This one shouldn't have fossils. I'm pretty sure I use this one just for music, right? Yeah. Whatever. I just gotta dump my sail fossil over here right now. Oh, you're so cozy. Honestly, a nice bonfire or fireplace is really cozy. Bonk. Oh, I might have to teleport to the guy's place just to get another fucking jaw fossil, because I'm upset that I lost it apparently. Oh, he's actually asleep in front of the fire. That's so cute. Who's here? Plus or mining? It's mining first. Hi, buddy. I need to get up to you. Hi. Who's that? Hey, you. Human-looking Pokemon. I owe you my thanks. You made this home, yeah? See, electricity is my favorite thing. My other fave? Sunny weather. Thought you said? Kind of boring, honestly. Exposure to electricity from muscle, mining and plusle promotes blood circulation and relaxes muscles. That's a new fact. You like spicy? Sure. Spicy? I need to get more carrots. Oh shit. Come over here. I need to move you from your house so plusle can spawn. I already have one. I gotta mine all these just in case it gives me the fossil. Ah! Never punished, baby! Now we go back to the displays. Put this shit down. Never punished! I'm curious, has any of them spawned yet? I don't see their text popping up. Oh my god, they've all spawned. Holy moly, I guess they're common, so that would be making sense. Yo, what's up? It's the gang's all here. Hi. And who might you be? You live around these parts? Guess that makes us neighbors then. I'm quite fond of this place myself. The air here feels familiar, you see? Almost like I've been breathing it for ages. Real curious, I tell you what. Oh, he's a southern buddy. It flew through the open skies over the ancient continent as if they were its own. When it touched ground, its walk was weak and slow. Well, yeah, that makes sense. He's a flying motherfucker. You like sour. I will give you sour. There you go. Darn totin' was thank you kindly. Ooh, there's a... I'm plum tickle pink. This guy's so shy. I wonder where I am. Hey, look at me. Oh. Hello there. Do you live around here? Oh, he's so cute. Look at him. I don't know anything about this area, and I'm really nervous, to be honest, but I hope we can be friends. Oh my god, he has the Deku voice. 100%. So, yeah. Nice to meet you. Do you also like sour? Although its fossils can be found in layers of primeval rock, nothing but its face has ever been discovered. You like sweet, of course you would. Hope we can still be friends and talk like this even after I get all big and grown up. Aw. Such a sweetie. Here. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. It's for you. Of course he has the crush. Looks like a nice place. Yo, you happen to know any big sturdy trees around here? I want to practice my headbutt. Oh, shouldn't go knocking down trees all willy-nilly. Yo, okay. You're doing some environmental reform? And that's for all the Pokemon? Oh my god, he actually talks like a caveman. You're doing some environmental reform? What the fuck does that mean? So, in other words, that's like super amazing. I guess I underestimated you. Sorry about the trees, yo. I won't do that no more. You can totally call on me anytime you need me. This motherfucker's as dumb as a bag of rocks. In rock layers where Kratos fossils are found, the fossilized trunks of trees snapped in two are off. I didn't check what you ate. What do you eat, buddy? Spicy. Shit, I don't have that many carrots. It's for you. They're talking. No, they stopped talking. Oh wait, I need to drop my drop fossil too. There you go. Also, I can't tell how that's a jaw. Like, I can tell the skull and the shield, but how is that a jaw? No, let's go see if Amara spawned, because if Amara spawned, you're becoming my roomie. Amara, are you here? Amara's here! My beloved! My favorite! Hi! I wish you were shiny, but I know you can't be. Oh shit, thanks for the Lepa Berry. I don't really need it, but thank you. Hi! Oh, hey there! I feel like I've been sleeping for a long time. I was dreaming, I think. I was in a nice, cool place. Uh oh, you're in a volcano. That's the opposite. But this place is just as nice as my dreams. Maybe I'll make this my new home. Looks like I've made a new friend, too. Yeah! I love Amara. This was the first Poke plush I ever bought. This Pokemon was successfully researched from a fossil. In the past, they lived with others of its kind in cold lands where there were fewer predators. You like dry, of course you would. Dry as Chesto, of course. No. I did not want to eat it in front of you. I am so sorry. It's kind of rude. I need you to be my roommate. Get over here. You can live with your papa or mama. I don't wanna be genderless. You can move in with me. You can live on the second floor. Yay! Look at them. You going inside? No, you're just hanging out. Yay, let me see if Blustle spawned. Oh, more habitat info. Or Pokemon info. I think Pokemon info is more important to me than habitat info, actually. Oh, you spawn here. Gulpin, of course that would make sense. Sorry, not Gulpin, Swalot. Anybody? No. Last thing, we're gonna go back to Pallet Town, see if the one in Pallet Town spawned, and then we will go to bed. As in game. And maybe real life. The only bad thing about Amora and Amoris is they have one of the worst typings in existence in Pokemon, which is Rock Ice. And the reason I say Rock Ice is one of the worst in existence is because Rock and Ice share most of their weaknesses and don't give each other any bonus resistances. So they just lose to everything really hard and don't really resist anything special. Anything? No? Like fighting steel, just make them explode. That's it, nobody spawned? Okay, I guess we're done for now. Yo, look at him flying! Anyway, yeah, we'll finish up here. Ugh. I'm getting tired, so let's just finish up there. Okay. Let's go back over here. Ugh. Let me turn on my music again. Let's finish up. Alright. We are all done for now. We're all done for the week. I will not be back till Wednesday as always. Thanks for the stream. Thank you guys for being here. Mario Galaxy, great game. The final 20 stars can fuck right off. Purple coins suck ass. I don't think I'll do the Luigi version because if it's just the same game but Luigi, I don't really care to do that. I don't want to play the same game twice. Like if there's a difference, sure. But if there's not, just if it's Luigi but the same game, not interesting to me. I don't think I'll do Mario Galaxy 2 right away. Maybe I'll save that for later. I don't know what game I'm gonna play next for retro or regular. I have no fucking clue. Maybe I'll play, you know what I've never actually done? Get all emblems in Sonic Adventure 1. Maybe I'll do that as my retro game, and as for the non-required, I'm not gonna say required, but the non-themed nights, Wednesday, Friday. I don't quite know what I'm gonna do. I'll need to see what games are out there that I have like saved up or that are like potentially coming out soon that I want to play. Yeah, I don't know. Next week might be just a complete crapshoot. Shit, I have no idea what I'm gonna want. Finish Chrono Trigger? No, I haven't. I should finish that. I don't know. I guess Chrono Trigger hasn't hooked me yet, surprisingly, which is weird because I love JRPGs. Maybe I'll go back to that. Maybe it just hasn't hooked me because like I haven't been able to play it consistently, right? Because I played it like 1 week And then I got sick, so I stopped playing it for a week, and then I came back and I played it for another week, and then I got sick again. And then Pokokia came out, so I just haven't played it for a bit. Maybe that's why it hasn't hooked me. Maybe I'll get back to it. We'll see. Yeah, I don't know. But anyway, I'm just gonna get off. Don't be a freak, not that way. I'm gonna, yeah, maybe, we'll see. Maybe I'll play it one more day and see if it hooks me. But so far I don't know, it hasn't really. No offense to it, I know it's like one of the greatest JRPGs ever, like a lot of people agree on that. It just hasn't hooked me yet, surprisingly. Yeah, I'm gonna get off, I'm gonna go rest for a bit, get ready for my work week, and yeah, just wait for the schedule on Sunday. We'll see what I do. Thank you guys for being here. You guys have a good night. Enjoy your weekend, stay safe, and yeah, Golden Week Rin is over, so you'll see me back to normal. Fuck it right now. Bam, we're back. All right, see you guys Wednesday. Bye.